Okay, well, I was just sitting here happily crushing some candy on my phone when this random idiot popped up on the auto playlist. This fella is called Professor Dave Explains. Um, and so I've just had to rewind him a little bit because some of this stuff just cannot be passed off without at least some sort of intelligent response. I'm not going to play the whole bloody video because it'll go for way too long, but let's see what he says here.
And you all quote them verbatim without applying a shred of critical thinking. So now that I am intimately familiar with your greatest hits, I just had to make one more
Nothing great
video
about my
so that
tits,
I could
mate.
share the 10 things that all flat earthers say. If you're a regular person and you haven't seen my other two Flat Earth videos, you may want to check those out first for a little bit of context.
Yeah, I'm pretty regular.
But if you're a
I
Flat
took a
Earther
dump
yourself,
already.
don't bother. I'll be speaking
Now I've had my
directly
coffee.
to you
I'll be taking
throughout
another one
this
shortly.
video. Let's begin.
Okay,
Number
let's
one,
begin.
one extremely problematic side effect of taking the globe and flattening it out into a plane is that gravity makes no sense, and there is no reason for things to fall to the ground.
That's exactly right, because that's exactly what we have not done, you fucking moron. What we have done is understood the reality of the nature of the realm we live upon, which is not flattening out a globe. You still believe in heliocentrism with its magical forces of attraction of mass, and that is not at all what Flat Earth is about. So you've had a major, major fail right before you even start.
All objects accelerate towards the ground at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's an indisputable fact.
And why would that be? Why would that be an indisputable fact that all things of any mass fall at the same rate? Could it be because they're falling through the density of air, and the air's resistance is what allows everything of any mass to fall at the same speed minus the air resistance? Wow, maybe so.
And it is also an indisputable fact that any acceleration requires a force to produce it.
No.
This is how cars drive, planes fly, people walk, cats jump. It's how literally all motion works.
Motion. Apart from something in free fall. That's the key word here, free fall. The force that was applied was what picked it up in the first place. If you left it at rest, as Newton's laws all say, it would remain at rest unless acted upon by another force. This acceleration of dropping through the air is simply that, dropping through the air, finding its equilibrium and finding a place of resistant force which gives it buoyancy.
Even charlatans like the globe busters accept at least this much, which is why they go off on their rants about magnetic magic, as you may have seen in my previous video. But quite comically, most flat earthers don't even do this. Most of you address this problem by simply listing two words, density and buoyancy. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but these are not forces.
Yes, they are. It is a resistant force that gives buoyancy. Without that, nothing falls. That's the problem with all you globetards, is you're not realizing that resistance is the force. That's the only force. When it's lack of resistance, it remains in motion unless acted upon by another force. So buoyancy is the resistant force. Acceleration is the lack of resistance, which in the medium of air is not resistant enough to slow something down, so it keeps accelerating. Whether or not it keeps going at 9.8 meters per second, I think is highly debatable, but that's a globe belief which you guys keep repeating ad nauseum without ever actually proving it. Let's see what else you say now to make yourself look even stupider.
Forces are vectors. They have a magnitude, which means a numerical amount, and a direction, which means they have to point somewhere. Density is simply mass per unit volume, or how much matter sits in a particular space. It doesn't point anywhere. And buoyancy is simply a measurement of an object's tendency to float.
Resistant
so allow
force.
me to repeat, these are not forces.
Resistant force.
This is trivial to prove.
It is a force.
You say that objects fall down because they are more dense than the air below them. Why down? Why not up or sideways? When you let go of a ball,
Because
there is
air doesn't have enough resistance to give it buoyancy. It is so fucking straightforward. A child should understand this. You guys keep saying the same thing. Density and buoyancy. What part about the end buoyancy bit don't you get? The ground is sufficiently resistant to give something buoyancy, so it stops when it reaches the ground. The air has some little amount of resistance, so as you throw the ball up, it will be resisted until eventually it's not sufficient resistance to give it buoyancy, so it falls back down. The way everything falls until finding a place of resistance. That is why the ground is beneath us, why the air is above us and around us. Fuck me dead, it's just so straightforward. It should be the simplest things you ever learn as a child when you first learn to frickin' breathe. That you don't fall through the ground. It's just the nature of the beast, for fuck's sake.
air all around it. How does it know to fall down? Also, objects fall down when they are in a vacuum, which means there is no air below them. What's happening there?
What's happening there, mate, is there's even less resistance again. You've removed all resistance in a vacuum. So, of course, the feather with no air resistance will drop the same rate as the bowling ball. It should be so frickin' obvious.
Face the facts. Things accelerate down towards the ground because of a downward force. That force
Lack
is gravity,
of resistance,
which pulls everything towards the center of the Earth, which is its center of mass.
Yeah, what a joke.
Denser things displace
What a
less
joke.
dense things because gravity exists.
Nah.
More mass means a greater gravitational attraction.
You already explained what density is. Go back to your bar of gold again and tell us how much it is. It's the amount of matter in a given space. Oil, being less dense than water, naturally seeks its level because the water displaces the oil, which causes it to float. It's all displacement, density, and buoyancy. Really simple, and you're proving it, even if you don't understand it yourself, because you want to appear all clever and sciencey and shit. Wow.
This is clearly why things that are less dense than water float on water. Again, because gravity exists. Rocks are pulled down harder than water, which is pulled down harder than air.
Wouldn't be density, would it? Because rocks are more dense than water. I think we've already explained that. So density and buoyancy pretty much explain everything perfectly well. And you just keep trying to convolute it with this magical, invisible force you think of as gravity, attraction of mass. What a load of hogwash, you moron.
Your more popular retorts to this include wondering how oceans stay on the Earth while birds and insects can fly. It's because birds and insects have wings. They flap them and generate an upward force. If that force exceeds the gravitational force, they go up. Oceans can't do this because oceans don't have wings.
Oh my gosh, what a moron.
Individual water molecules can evaporate and go up into the sky because they are so tiny.
I'm going to pause this.